acceptance of what is the pathway to inner peace, maybe even to enlightenment. In fact, there's a Zen Buddhist maxim that would say the great way is easy for one with no preferences. Simple, right? Yet, as an oncology chaplain, every day I walk beside folks for whom a cancer diagnosis is automatic entry into the veritable Olympics of acceptance. And Zen masters be damned, every patient I have walked beside, without exception, most certainly has had their preferences. I would have chosen anything other than this. Stage 4 cancer at age 40, are you kidding me? I can't accept that that happened to me. I can't accept that it happened to my family. I want my old life back. Even though resistance to what is, no matter what our circumstances, only solidifies and deepens our suffering, leaving us stranded miles away from any oasis we would ever call inner peace. At the same time, we live in a culture that absolutely reveres self-reliance and abhors what it perceives as self-pity. The thing is that part of us that would characterize our feelings as self-pity is the very same part that would rob us of any authentic experience of self-compassion and in turn acceptance. The two go together in a kind of dance. While I might have this lofty aspiration for equanimity, I'm also encumbered by all too human feelings of despair, frustration, weariness, anger, resentment. What about equanimity for those feelings as well? Daryl was newly diagnosed with an aggressive sarcoma, but at the time was completely asymptomatic. It's kind of crazy making, Michael. I'm only sick because the doctor tells me I am. Still, he's heard enough from his oncologist and read enough to have a sense of what's coming down the pike, and that leaves him scared, of course. But Michael, I don't dare feel those feelings. If I do, I'll go down a dark hole and I'll never come out. That's a pretty common perception, that if I allow myself to feel my feelings, they will take over and suck me under. What I have found to be true is the exact opposite, that when we give our feelings the light of day, give them some air to breathe, it can rob them of their power. It can loosen their grip from around our throat. And we're often afforded the perspective to see, oh, they're just feelings. And as the poet Rilke reminds us, no feeling is final. A few years ago, one of the oncologists referred me to Vicky, who was so distressed that the doctor thought she might need a psychiatric evaluation. But in any event, Michael, she's up in the infusion clinic now and she's sobbing like crazy. Will you please go see her? Vicky had been living with a pretty rare lymphoma for about 15 years, and in those 15 years had been on maybe a dozen different drug protocols. Each one worked for a time, and as is often the case with cancer drugs, would stop working. Today was day one of yet another drug protocol, and Vicky was just cooked, absolutely fried. But by the time I got upstairs, she'd kind of gotten it together a little bit. And to hear her tell it, really, Michael, I'm so blessed. Really, look, at least my cancer is treatable, and I have a wonderful doctor, and I have wonderful insurance, the best husband in the world, and kids and grandkids, and a deep Christian faith. My church community is so wonderful. Really, I'm so blessed. And it was like the longer she talked, the less oxygen there was in the room, as if the rope were getting tighter around her neck, because she just couldn't reconcile these all too human feelings of weariness, frustration, disappointment, resentment, with her attachment to her identity as Little Miss Sunshine. What's more, an even more fierce attachment to positivity above all else. I mean, look around here, Michael. So many others have it so much worse. Why am I such a crybaby? There's absolutely no self-compassion in that statement. No grace, allowance whatsoever to just be a human being on a human journey. It's kind of like trying to compose a symphony called Vicky, but deciding that only these 4 or 5 notes are acceptable to be used. Only these sweet high notes of forgiveness and joy and gratitude and compassion. No room for deep, dark notes of despair, frustration, resentment, anger. It takes all 88 keys on a piano to write a full-bodied symphony. It takes all those sweet high notes, all those deep, dark, low notes, everything in between. A few dark notes in the symphony of Vicky does not make her less of who she is. It makes her more. I see this as a kind of dance between acceptance, equanimity, and self-compassion. I'm reminded of a toy I had as a little boy. It was a little gizmo with a trigger on it. You pulled the trigger and a card spun around very quickly. On one side of the card might be the image of a bird, on the other side the image of a bird cage. As you pulled the trigger, the card spun. It looked like the bird was in the cage. Each side of the card is telling the truth for what it is. This is a bird, this is a bird cage. But we only get the complete picture through the dance, the constant motion between the two. What if it's like that between acceptance and self-compassion, this constant dance? I'll tell you, the older I get, the more depth of meaning and resonance I find in the most deceptively simple song lyrics, songs, very old songs from the Great American Songbooks, written by the masters, the Gershwins, Cole Porter, Rodgers and Hart, Jerome Kern, songs I might have even called corny once upon a time. Irving Berlin was one such master. Let's face the music and dance. Before the fiddlers have fled, before they ask us to pay the bill, and while we still have a chance, let's face the music and dance. Maybe I have been diagnosed with metastatic cancer, or some other tragedy has befallen me. Maybe I do have to accept it, to face the music, if you will, but also to dance with it, to dance with all of it, and all of the attendant emotions, the grief, the disappointment, the sorrow, the fear, the despair, but also the love and hope that's buried in there too, beneath everything else, when everything else has burnt away. Maybe through that dance we can come to something closer to what we might call the great way or inner peace. That constant dance with the feelings, accepting and dancing. A few years ago, I had a patient, Casey, who used to come to my spiritual reflection group every week. And she would often comment, I hate that word acceptance, Michael. I don't accept that I have cancer. To me, acceptance implies that I approve, and I don't approve. I will never approve. I acknowledge that I have cancer, but I don't accept it. A number of years ago, I got a pretty darn vivid little exercise in acceptance. It was March of 2017. I got to take a wonderful solo trip to Nepal and Bhutan. And the second to the last day of my trip was probably one of the most splendid, perfect days of my life. Along with my guide, my friend Saiwang, we climbed up to Tiger Nest Monastery outside of Paro, Bhutan. It's a magnificent 16th century Buddhist monastery, perilously and improbably hanging off the side of a mountain with this stunning view of the mountains, the valley below. It's only accessible by foot, and it's quite an arduous climb to get there, not unlike climbing to the top of Yosemite Falls, if any of you have ever tackled that one. It's also a site of sacred pilgrimage for the Bhutanese people. All are expected to make that climb once in their lifetime if they can. So Saiwang and I made our climb, and we reached the gates of the compound. We took our shoes off. We went inside. The first thing I saw was this big, fat, orange tabby cat snoozing in this narrow shaft of sunlight piercing through this slit of a window, right next to a monk tending to the altar right there in the foyer. Saiwang showed me around. We sat in the great hall and meditated for a time, and then we lit a few butter lamp candles, sending up healing prayers for loved ones, for my patients, for my mom. With our spirits full to the brim, we descended back down the mountain, talking every step of the way about everything, about life. We get to the bottom of the mountain. Saiwang surprises me. He treated me to a hot herbal stone bath in a wooden tub at the family farm of my driver, Sonam Tabgai. After this delirious soak, I got treated to a home-cooked meal that I got to share with Sonam Tabgai and his family and with Saiwang. Like I say, it was a perfect day, enchanted, really. The next morning, I was supposed to fly from Paro back to Kathmandu, spend the night, and the next day, catch my long series of flights home to Los Angeles. I get up, I pull the curtains back of my room. To my amazement, the landscape is blanketed in white. It had been snowing all night. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. But just think, Michael, if this had happened yesterday, you wouldn't have been able to climb up to the monastery. Aren't you lucky? But then it didn't stop snowing. Uh-oh. What if my flight doesn't make it? What if I miss my connection? I quickly scrambled, got ready, got packed up, went downstairs, met Saiwang. Saiwang, can we call the airport? Do you think my flight's going to leave? No, Michael, I'm sorry. They don't allow you to call. You have to go in person. And I'm also sorry to say it's against the law for me to go in the airport with you. So once I leave you at the door, it will be goodbye. Now I'm starting to get a little worked up and upset. I've been planning this trip for over a year, had my seat, my aisle seat booked for over a year. In those Airbus 380s, there's 15 seats across in coach. If I miss my flight, they're going to reschedule me and they're going to put me in the middle seat. I won't make it. I'll kill people. I can't do it. Just breathe, Michael. There's nothing you can do about it. I wasn't expecting a little pop quiz in Buddhist philosophy at this point in my journey. You know what I mean? So just pay attention. What's in front of you? Oh, look, little kids playing in the snow. They're so happy to have been released from school early. We get to the airport. I have a rather tearful goodbye with Saiwang, which doesn't exactly feel like goodbye because I'm not sure I'm leaving. He tells me he'll wait in the parking lot for an hour or so just to make sure everything gets underway. When I go in the terminal, it becomes apparent there's no electric power here. There are no illuminated computer screens. There's no lights, no PA system. There's one teeny woman behind a counter and hundreds of frantic passengers in front of her. Now, I have to say, Bhutan is the most Buddhist culture and country imaginable. I've never seen anything like it. It's not just a religion. It's not a way of life. It is in their DNA. I wait for impossibly long in this line. I get up to the desk, and this sweet little woman looks at me with this tender smile. Yes, sir. How may I help you? As if she has all the time in the world, as if she hasn't just been dealing with hundreds of disgruntled passengers. I'm getting a little choked up and getting upset. And I said, well, I've got to get to Kathmandu because I got to get home. And I had this aisle seat. And she listened so kindly and says, yes, sir. She said, if the flight is canceled today, the airline will have to put you up in another hotel for the night in Paro. But there's a chance there would be another flight leaving tomorrow morning, which would get you back to Kathmandu in time to make your connecting flight. So, of course, the flight is canceled. And thank God Saiwang was still out in the parking lot so he could drive me to the new hotel. We have a little more time together. I didn't have to wrestle with shuttle buses and all that. We get to the hotel. It becomes apparent there's no electric power here either. There's no light, no heat, no hot water, no internet, no way to communicate with home. And it is so cold. I had to put every article of clothing I brought with me on and get under the covers just to keep my teeth from chattering. It was one long day, and this pop quiz in Buddhism was going on way too long for my money. As it started to get dark, I realized I've got no way to see in this room once it gets dark. There was a candle, but no match. And I certainly wasn't going to use what was left of my telephone battery for the flashlight on my phone. So I took the candle, went up, trudged through the snow back up to the lodge to see if by chance they have a match. When I get there, a man who appears to be from the airport is coming in. I grab him before anybody else can. Excuse me, are you from the airport? Can you tell me, is my flight going to leave tomorrow? Yes, sir. Of course, sir. But first, tell me, how do you like the hotel? How do I like the hotel? My inner ugly American is starting to wake up. Well, it's very nice, but it's cold and there's no hot water and there's no light and there's no internet and I need to be able to communicate with home. I need to get home. Yes, sir, he says so kindly. All over Paro, there's no heat, no hot water. Said with such striking equanimity and yet compassion at the same time. It was such a stunning illustration to me. I thought of calling this talk, How Do You Like the Hotel? I don't think I have the genetic material for that kind of equanimity. I can only aspire to it, but it is a goal. Happily, the next morning, I was able to catch a flight back to Kathmandu. I sailed past Mount Everest with this stunning view against a sapphire sky, landed in Kathmandu, ran across the tarmac, ran through immigration, ran through customs, ran back out through security, out back onto the tarmac and up the ramp into my plane and settled into my aisle seat as they closed the door behind me. Sometimes things work out. My grandma Ann, my mom's mom, was a born worrier. She worried about everything and everybody her entire life. Toward the end of her life, she had a lot of health issues, in and out of the hospital, a lot of surgeries. I went to see her after one surgery or another, and I remember they wouldn't let me in the recovery room, but I could talk to her across the threshold, so I called out, "How you doing in there, Gram?" "Honey boy," she says, "you get yourself all worked up over these things, and it's just never as bad as you think it's going to be." Took her 83 years to come to that simple wisdom. I have what it takes to make this journey. Whatever is thrown at me, I can have faith in my capacity to respond. A few years later, I got another vivid exercise in self-compassion. It was January 3rd, 2020, my first day back to work after the New Year holiday. I'm driving home from the infusion clinic in Santa Monica, going east on Santa Monica Boulevard. I cross Barrington, and a woman traveling south runs a cherry red light and smashes into my driver's side door with me on the other side of it, totaling my then 13-year-old Prius, a car from which I was hoping to squeeze a few more years, so much so that I just put $5,000 into it for a replacement hybrid battery and new tires. Total loss. Happy New Year. So I had to spend money I didn't want to spend to get a replacement used car, and it was nice to have a nicer car, but I'd rather have had the money. Not 10, 11 months later, it's Christmas Eve, 2020, the height of the pandemic. We were all in lockdown. Do you remember what that was like? How surreal that was. It's 5:30 in the afternoon on Christmas Eve. I hear what sounds like an explosion in front of the house. I run outside. The whole neighborhood's already out on the street. Some kid running a drug deal gone bad had smashed into my new car with such velocity that he knocked it clear in front of the neighbor's house. I screamed. I could not accept this reality. God bless Taylor next door, just the person you want in a scene like this. He's holding the space of calm. He's getting all the information. He's taking the pictures. He's talking to the cops. He's getting the insurance information. And I'm just melting down. And Taylor keeps saying, Michael, it's okay. Michael, it's okay. I finally snapped at him. Taylor, quit saying that. There's absolutely nothing about this that's okay. God bless Lisa across the street. She comes up right behind me. Michael, you're absolutely right. There's nothing about this that's okay. Sometimes you just need your feelings affirmed as they are. You know what I mean? But still, I was no closer to coming to accept this. I'm someone who has a very low tolerance for injustice, particularly what I perceive as spiritual injustice. I mean, look what I do for a living, for crying out loud. Is it too much to ask that I could have my car be totaled and have to lay out money I didn't want to spend to get a replacement car and keep that car nice for longer than 10 months? Apparently, yes. The answer to that question is always yes. It's too much to ask. And everyone I told about the incident responded, as you might assume. Oh, well, just be grateful you weren't in the car. At least you're safe. It's only a car, Michael. It's only material things. It's only money. I knew they were right, of course, but the more I heard it, the more I wanted to kill people. I wasn't remotely living in that reality. It took a good week to come up with a word to accurately describe how I felt. Forsaken. Spiritually forsaken. The universe had somehow broken its unspoken contract with me that if I'm a good person and do good things, it will work out. It was a much deeper matter than just that car. And because it was holiday time, the insurance company took a good week to send out a tow truck to haul the wreckage away. So every day I went outside to take a walk, get the paper, get the mail. I'm confronted with that wreckage, with the violence of it, with the spiritual injustice of it. And when they did finally come to tow it away, I went out there and cleared out all my crap from the glove box in the back of the car. As the car got towed away, I sobbed. I couldn't believe, why am I crying? It was as if they were wheeling my dead mother out of the hospital room. And I am not a car person at all. I went inside the house, and Scott, my husband, was so dear. I just wailed, and he just held me. And I was so embarrassed for carrying on so. And I said, Scott, you know this is about more than the car, right? You know this is deeper than that, right? I know, he said. I'm a swimmer. I swim every day, religiously, kind of OCD about it, actually, not only for health reasons, but also kind of for my sanity, for mental health. It's kind of like meditation to me. And during the pandemic, it was really hard to find a place to swim with all the gyms closed. There for a while, I was schlepping out to Glendale. They had a community pool there that was open on very limited hours with very strict contact precautions. Every day I had to scramble on the phone to get a reservation to swim for 45 minutes. After my car was destroyed again, I was driving home from Glendale, thoroughly disgusted with myself for not being able to let this go and get past it. I was suffering. I'm driving home down Forest Lawn Drive past these two enormous cemeteries, Mount Sinai and Forest Lawn, having a little talk with myself. Look there, Michael, there's hundreds of thousands of dead people up there. They'd give anything, I bet, to be back in a body and dealing with something as stupid as your car. Doesn't that put this into some perspective? No. And with that, a light bulb went off. My God. If that doesn't jog me loose, this is a deep wound that needs attention, needs tender attention and intention and curiosity. It needs acceptance, but more importantly, it needs self-compassion without the need to judge it or compare it, just to be with it. And with that awareness, almost immediately, I started to float towards something we might call acceptance, but more importantly, self-compassion. It can be really hard sometimes to feel feelings we do not want to feel. We're embarrassed by them. We want to be strong. We want to be smarter than that. We want to be self-reliant. We want to move on. Particularly when those feelings are not congruent with cultural norms and expectations. We judge them even more. But you know what? The feelings aren't going away. I've come to believe more and more that the only way through is the way in. The only way to get beyond is to go into it, to feel the feelings, all of them, and dance with them. To dance with all of them, because you know, soon we'll be without the moon, humming a different tune. And then there may be teardrops to shed. But while there's moonlight and music and love and romance, let's face the music and dance. So be it. Thank you.